Hey guys, Kyle the Death Knight of Anime here, bringing you my review for My Hero Academia Chapter 279. So, if there's one prevailing theme throughout this chapter when reading it for me, it would be faith and trust, or moreover, the older generation of heroes' willingness to put their trust into the younger generation of hero hopefuls. Well, like pretty much Class 1A, like pretty much Class 1B, like the hero students in general. And this because largely this chapter was pretty much everyone pulling out all the stops to incapacity Gigantomachia. But the key here is how much emphasis was put on the students' efforts, because through this chapter we're shown the perspective of just how important a role the students play in this little operation in order to take Gigantomachia down, and how much the adults are actually kind of depending on them, because if they weren't there, this would have if the students weren't there to begin with, at all, this would have gone the exact opposite direction of how we would have even wanted it to go to begin with. And in some ways it probably even wouldn't have succeeded if the students weren't there. So when the League of Villains was thrown into the mix, it kind of forced all of them to use anything and everything they had learned and apply it here to not only fend off the League, but to also show that they come into their own as heroes who are basically willing to do what needs to be done without hesitation. On top of which, in general, what I think this chapter does show too is it shows the roles between the older and younger generation being first. Because if you look at the lens through what everything's been doing up to this point, even though largely our Class 1A, our main heroes have had their successes and have had their successes at being their own heroes. Well, pretty much usually at some point during that time as well, they basically also pretty much had to pretty much fall back on and relied on the older generation of heroes in order to escape, or in order to provide cover, in order to get them out of a jam, like what happened when they tried to save Bakugo and whatnot. But here, this is actually putting that in reverse, and we actually get to see the previous generation is actually relying on the younger generation now in order to get through this. That's the biggest thing. That's the biggest I think flip of the coin with this arc, is that a lot of what's going on is that it's putting focus on how much the older generation have this reliance on the younger generation in order to get them out of a tight spot, whereas before it was in reverse. So yeah, it's sort of a reverse of the status quo of what we've seen thus far. And again, it really does show our students coming into their own as their own heroes and whatnot. Also, I really like how Horikoshi just pretty much gave Ashido the final shot of the chapter, and while I don't want to get my hopes up too high, let's just say with that final shot of seeing Ashido pretty much covered in saliva and covered in her acid, and presumably pretty much ready in order to shove the sedative down like Gigantomachia's throat. This got me excited with the prospect of Ashido having a good chunk of the focus next chapter. I don't want to say majority, because then I might jinx it, but yeah, let's just say this is something I'm gunning for most of all, because don't get me wrong, there have been a lot of students who who haven't necessarily had the spotlight, and mainly because Horikoshi has put majority focus on this whole idea of teamwork and how and each of the students like working together and whatnot. But 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 I'm hoping that next chapter at least has Ashido more in the spotlight, because of all the students in class 1A specifically, she feels like the one who's kind of fallen to the wayside the most, aside from maybe Sato. And yeah, and honestly, yeah, just in general, ever since the reveal of her backstory with Kirishima, I've been waiting for her to have her standout moment, and hopefully this I don't want to jinx it, but hopefully this is the one moment we've been waiting for, the one where Ashido like has her moment, she steps into the spotlight and just does her thing. Now the bigger question is whether or not this whole thing of shoving the sedative like from down Gigantomachia's throat is even going to succeed. And while things do look very promising, I'm keeping my guard up too, considering how much Horikoshi loves to pull the wool out from the rug out from under us. Like that's like even now that pretty much seems to be his favorite pastime, which is throwing some kind of curveball into every one of these situations. So yeah, and honestly, and considering how considering how what's her name again? And considering how and considering that Horikoshi actually gave a panel to Toga of seeing her like examine the situation very intently. I get the feeling that pretty much Toga is gonna play a part in whatever is gonna go south here. Like again, this whole thing is set up almost too perfectly. Like something is going to fail here, and I do get the feeling that the thing that is going to fail is going to be is the thing that's going to cause like some kind of failure here is going to be Toga. Like again, just seeing that panel of her just stare intently and examining the situation. Yeah, she feels like Toga's got the look of someone who's gonna be fucking some shit up or something like that. I don't know, but something is gonna go down here. This whole thing is just too much. Is just too like perfect of a setup, like not for something to go wrong. And you know what? Aside from that, I'll be honest. Mount Lady has been one of my absolute least favorite characters in all of Hero Academia. Like, I mean, absolute worst. Like, Mount Lady has literally been at the bottom of the list of my favorite Hero Academia characters for like ever. Even more than Mineta. But I'll be honest, in these past handful of chapters, she's really grown on me with just her tenacity and how she's sort of acting as a surrogate that represents the older generation's thoughts on and the faith they all have in order for the class A and B students to succeed. And for them to like do what needs to be done. Like they basically know a giant that they know, like not only knows that a giant responsibility has been hefted on them, and now she's suddenly like wanting them to succeed now. Which is the sort of mentality of all the teachers and all the adult heroes. Now, the chapter gives us sort of a brief look at the students' thoughts on whether or not they believe Mount Lady is alive. And yeah, despite Ashido's most optimistic spin on things, I do have that bad vibe that she's not gonna make it out of this. And it's one of those times where I hope Horikoshi sticks to it, or if she is dead, I hope Horikoshi sticks to that, or at the very least makes her MIA for a long time, because there needs to be some kind of major consequences for our heroes here. And while I'm sure a lot of that is still going to happen, like, it would be kind of nice if, I'm just saying, I don't know, maybe it's just kind of nice if he actually did kind of kill her, it did kind of kill Midnight. I don't know. It would just feel like a little bit more of a personal hit that would really allow the students to grow. But that's just me. Um, but yeah, guys, that's all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe, follow on Twitter, Facebook, and Let's Do Crunchyroll. Dead Knight of Anime, signing off. Later, guys.